Hi students, in today's task we are calculating the MAD, which stands for mean absolute deviation. We want to know the average distance each of the data points is from the mean, or the average for the data set. So if we think about those words, mean, average, absolute, that absolute value or absolute distance, so positive distances, and then deviation. Deviation is how different is that data point from the mean. So what we're looking at right here are a list of Elena's scores. So she's scored this many points. The average for the data set is 5. We want to know how different is each of these data points from that average. So what your first task to do is to find that absolute value or that distance from the average. So 4 is 1 unit away from 5. 5 is 0 units away from 5. 1 is 4 units away from 5, etc. So I've already completed this part right here because I want to also show you how we can find the average of a set of data using a spreadsheet. So after I've gone through and I've looked at all those, 7 is 2 units from 5. 8 is 3 units from 5. 2 is also 3 units from 5, just the opposite direction. But notice all these values are positive because we're considering that absolute value or that distance from the average of 5. So now that I've done that, now that I have those distances, I want to find the mean of those absolute deviations or absolute differences or distances from the mean of the data set. So I want to find the mean of this now set of numbers, this set of data. So I can do that with a spreadsheet. If I want to put a formula in my spreadsheet to tell the spreadsheet that I'm typing a formula and not just something else in the cells, then I click equals first. And then I can start typing the formula that I want to use. There's all kinds of formulas that have already been coded in a sheet like this Google Sheet. And I want to use the average. So I have chosen the average. You can see it has an open parentheses. It's expecting me to put in the information that I want averaged. And I want all of these cells. So I've pressed down on my trackpad and now I'm dragging. I want to average all of these data points to tell the computer or to tell the code that I am done identifying what I want averaged. I just go ahead and close that parentheses and then I press enter. And it calculated that average distance each of these data points is from the average of the data. So we have Elena's scores. The average of all of Elena's scores is 5. We want to know how different are the data points. And this is going to tell us some information in regards to how close to center, how close together is all of the data points. If this number is really large, then that tells me that the data is more spread out, that we have lots of numbers that are farther away from that center, or we have some really big or really small numbers that are far away from that center or from that average. If this MAD is a really small number, then that means that almost all of the data points are exactly the same, or they're really close to that center average. So if I were to look at this data for Elena, ways that I could see that this MAD would increase, if she were to have points, like if I replaced this 6, if she had scored instead 9 or 1 or something like that that's further away from the average of 5, you would see that that MAD would change. Also, the average for the data set would probably change as well. But the further away the individual data points are from the center, from that average value, the larger the MAD will be. The closer they are to that center, the smaller the MAD will be. So you're going to do the same thing with Jada's data and Lynn's data. I think I might have been saying Jada this whole time. It says Elena. Silly me. So we looked at Elena's data. You're going to do the same thing with Jada's data and also Lynn's data. And you're going to compare those MAD values and see who is more consistent in their scores. And that MAD will tell you that. That MAD will tell you who is the more consistent performer with these data points.